welcome back to You're All Doomed, a podcast that finger breaks its way through Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday, 13 hellacious minutes at a time. I'm your host, Brian.
And I'm superfluous crossover reference Greg.
This episode begins with Officer Randy outside of the jail cell and ends with what looks like a scuffle breaking out in an automobile.
Yeah, as Officer Randy is betrayed by his friend Stephen and then locked in the cell, he pleads with Stephen not to do this, that if Stephen escapes, he'll be shot on sight. And I thought that was a cute moment of, you know, this guy who should be angry is still trying to look out for his friend. That seemed like a genuine moment of camaraderie.
We head back to the diner where Joey B is complaining about all the money she's losing because she decided to close up for the day following Diana's death. So she's a real sweetheart. Vicky shows up and Joey isn't thrilled about having a baby in the diner. Just then the phone rings and Joey finds out that Stephen has escaped from jail and he has a gun. Joey is somehow convinced that Stephen is halfway to Canada by now, but she's got a gun just in case. But Stephen isn't halfway to Canada. He's hiding out in the storage room of the diner where Vicky is in the process of setting up a makeshift crib for baby Stephanie.
Out of a Del Monte box.
Vicky steps away for a minute, giving Stephen the opportunity to meet his daughter for apparently the first time. He admits to not even knowing the baby's name. What the hell did he do to Jessica that was so bad that she couldn't wait to A, get away from him, and B, refuse to tell him his daughter's name?
Seriously?
And this guy's supposed to be one of our protagonists.
Well, and the fact that Diana still encounters Stephen regularly at the diner where he apparently hangs out all the time, and she's never even told him the baby's name?
As Stephen is admiring his daughter, Joey's son and reluctant hamburger maker, Ward, shows up.
And in terms of Crystal Lake Diner busboys, I found Ward to be surprisingly charming.
I liked Ward, yeah. He doesn't say a whole lot or do a whole lot, but he is definitely up there as one of the charming Friday the 13th busboys. Ward feels sorry for Stephen and gives him the keys to his car, which is a 1979 Chevrolet Monte Carlo. And we see it pull up to the Voorhees house.
Yeah, Stephen has driven to the abandoned Voorhees mansion, and there's a weird Raimi-esque camera push to establish the size of the house. I didn't quite notice this the first time, but knowing what happens in the moments to come, it makes a lot of sense, because as Stephen walks into the house and around the dining room, he notices on a nearby table a copy of the fucking Necronomicon Ex Mortis, the Book of the Dead, which, of course, is from Sam Raimi's Evil Dead series. So these guys are clearly big fans and wanted to throw in this little nod. But what are we supposed to make of that? Is this to imply that Jason has been imbued with evil Kandarian powers or something? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's simply there just for fan service. But I even question how many people would pick up on it. You know, it's pretty recognizable to most horror fans, but like you said, they don't do anything with it. You know, it would have been interesting if it was sitting there and then they decided to open it up, you know, a little bit later to, you know, conjure some sort of, you know, evil spirits. But spoiler alert, they never do anything with it again. It's simply just a prop sitting on the table for people to be like, oh, look, it's the Necronomicon.
Yeah, or if, like, you know, at the end of the movie, the classic pulls into town and Ash gets out of the car and there's like this crossover reference, that'd be cool.
Yeah, come on. That's all this movie needs, is some sort of crossover with other, you know, horror franchise.
Hearing footsteps approaching, Stephen hides in the closet, but the floorboards beneath him give way and he falls halfway through the floor. He's kind of stuck up to his waist, but at least he's concealed in this little tiny closet. Fortunately for him, it's just the American Case File host. He is apparently scouting the location for a broadcast about Jason. He's on the phone talking to what I assume is his producer or something. He reveals that he has stolen Diana's body from the morgue and has hidden it in the closet. After doing so, he then brags about going home and fucking her daughter, which is really classy. I like this guy a lot. He seems like a cool guy. So Stephen overhears that the body of Diana is in the closet and kind of has a little moment of like, oh shit, But the clean-shaven Josh barges into the room and throws American Case File host guy onto the table, and then barfs that wrinkly black worm into his mouth. I did like the little throat bulging effect that the Case File host had as the worm was being regurgitated to his body. Josh, now having expunged the spirit of Jason from himself, collapses to the floor and begins to melt, disintegrate. It's pretty gory and pretty great effects, but I'm not sure what the actor is going for. He's kind of gesturing his body like an interpretive dance, almost like the alien from Enemy Mine that Louis Gossett Jr. played. And at one point in his flailing, he bonks the door of the closet, which causes Diana's body to pitch forward and then fall into the hole that Stephen has been stuck in this whole time.
Yeah, I do like Josh's death. It's by far the most disgusting thing we've seen in any Friday the 13th movie so far. And I kind of wish it was what the toxic waste scene at the end of Jason Takes Manhattan should have been. Mm-hmm. It's a really just nasty, like just watching this body dissolve into this literal puddle of goo. And it's gross. It's really, really gross. And I just watching it was thinking like, oh, this would have been a pretty cool ending to Jason Takes Manhattan. It would have made a lot more sense than a little boy ending up on the side of the tunnel.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, and that's an excellent point about it being perfect for that movie. It doesn't necessarily feel like the kind of gore we've had in the Jason movie so far, which is okay, but it kind of raises the bar a little bit in this series. You know, we've had some eyeball popping and blah blah blah, but this is like full body, you know, liquefaction. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, it's more like something you'd see in a movie like From Beyond or something that's, you know, intended to have these really shocking things. So it does seem a little out of place, but it doesn't take away from the fact that it's pretty effective. Yeah,
no, it's great. Josh was played by Andrew Block, who appeared on the TV series MASH a couple of times, WKRP in Cincinnati, which has a warm place in my heart thanks to the city in which I live, and played Captain Dan Hulland in the Steven Seagal masterpiece Hard to Kill. His credits go quiet after 2013, and it seems like he's an acting coach these days, which seems to be something that a lot of actors from this series wind up doing.
Are you ready to have your mind blown? Because I've got an epic blowjob for you. According to my research, Deputy Josh was secretly dating Diana while being married to Edna, which is why he was showing up at the diner with the sweater and acting all sweet and, you know, nurturing to her, because apparently they were having some sort of relationship. Now, obviously, we never had that on screen or never saw it on screen, so it's hard to confirm, but it was something that I read in a couple of different places that was kind of the intention.
I don't know how I feel about that. Because, you know, as I mentioned in their first scene together, I kind of liked the brother-sisterly vibe they kind of had going, where they seemed genuinely affectionate for each other, but with not a whole lot of undercurrent to it. It just seemed like a very sincere platonic relationship. So I'm actually a little bit disappointed to learn that was the intention.
No, I agree. Yeah, I'm not saying that I like this idea. It's just that that was something that I read, but I also wonder if, like, this was something that the actor added to his character bio to make it seem like he could get a girl like Erin Gray.
And I mean, you know, like, you have to ask, like, why is that even necessary in a movie like this? What does this kind of unspoken subtext add to the movie at all? I mean, Josh is barely in it as himself before he's possessed. So who gives a shit if he's hooking up with Diana on the side? She's barely in it too.
Mm-hmm.
Poor Edna.
Robert, who's now freshly inseminated with the Jason worm, begins to wake up. He storms out of the room, walking like he has a stick up his ass, so this can only mean one thing. He's now TV show host Voorhees. Then we cut to Jessica, who from this point on I'm just going to refer to as Adjacent Voorhees, is taking a shower somewhere.
Is she at her mom's house?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we know that she didn't live in Crystal Lake because she called Diana to tell her that she was coming to visit, and it sounded like it was going to take her a while to get there. But I guess she's back at her mother's house, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it's her childhood home, so she feels comfortable taking a shower and crying. As she's washing off the grief of the day, we get a shot of host guy switching off the power to the house. So Jessica puts on a t-shirt and goes downstairs in the dark, smartly grabs a hammer, and then heads into the garage. She leans into the car and turns on the hazard lights.
This temporarily illuminates the garage, which would have been a really cool effect if the flashing lights revealed Jason standing behind the car, but instead it reveals the tie and suspenders-clad Robert Campbell, so it's a little bit of a letdown.
I don't know, I'm pretty terrified of a yuppie standing in the dark in my garage.
I do like the hazard light effect, though, because the idea of the kind of like the strobing lights, the darkness to the light, it creates a spooky atmosphere. And, again, it would have been cooler if there was something spookier than, some business casual guy standing behind the car. But I did like the darkness into light kind of effect.
Yeah, I agree with that. She fumbles around in the glove box a bit and then pulls out a flashlight, only to be startled when she finds that American Case File host guy is standing right there. He grabs her head and growls, just as Steven runs into the garage and decks the host with the lamest punch I've ever seen on film.
Yeah, let's not forget that Robert is supposed to be Jason Voorhees' unstoppable killing machine, and he was just taken out by a punch from a dude wearing his high school Letterman jacket.
With Case File host incapacitated, Steven and Jessica make it to Steven's car just in time for host guy to punch through the driver's side window. So apparently he shook off that punch. Steven guns the car in reverse and then floors it to move forward, unexpectedly knocking host guy to the ground. Then they back over him and hightail it to safety.
We even hear his bones breaking as the car peels off down the road. It's pretty gnarly.
It was pretty great.
As Steven and adjacent Voorhees are driving off in Ward's car, adjacent is obviously pretty horrified by what's just happened, so she insists that Steven pull over the car on the side of the road. And he explains that it might look like he killed Robert, but that wasn't Robert, and he's not dead. And, oh, by the way, Deputy Josh, or someone that looked like Josh, was the one who killed Diana, not him. He says that Diana blew off the back of Josh's head and Steven stabbed him through the chest and it still didn't kill him. And Steven says that they need to go get Stephanie. So remind me again why the baby is with Vicky anyway. Because all Jessica has done is gone home and taken a shower.
I mean, I guess I can understand the logic of not wanting to have your baby around a police station where there might be, dangerous criminals or, at the very least, an uncomfortable vibe or something. Maybe she expected to be answering questions for several hours and didn't want to have the baby sleep in the police station or something. I don't know.
Or it was just a way for the filmmakers to not have to worry about a baby being in every scene.
There you go.
Steven also says that he won't leave her this time, which implies that Steven bailed on her once she got pregnant, which is a pretty shitty thing to do.
I don't like the backstory that I'm kind of inferring for Steven. He doesn't really seem like a very stand-up guy.
No, and Jessica is not making any kind of indication that she trusts them either, because she punches Steven and screams, "I'll never let you near my baby." So, yeah, we're supposed to like Steven, but I'm actually kind of terrified of him.
Fortunately, I'm pretty sure she punches him in the dick, so he won't be running after her. So that's where this segment ends. And we have two deaths. Josh, the clean-shaven deputy, and the Evil Dead franchise for being associated with this movie at all.
To find out why I won't let Greg see our daughter, tune in next week for another episode of You're All Doomed.